All right, hello everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of A Sip of Knowledge with Marty, Duffy, Rhodes, and Lew Bryson. Plus this week's special guests, Jouni and Kalle from Kyro Distillery, who I will let your host give a more formal introduction to in just a moment. Real quick before I turn things over, I'm Will Hookinga from Zavvi.co. Apologies that we're a few minutes late. We had a quick little technical issue that we have since sorted out, so we're all good now. On your right, you may have noticed there's a chat box, so feel free to say hello. Let us know where you're joining us from around the world. It's always fun to see that. If you have a question at any point during the show, there's a little button at the bottom that says Ask a Question, so just hit that button, type your question in down there. I'll be keeping an eye out for those throughout the show today. And last but not least, feel free to invite your friends to join us. There's a share button at the top that makes it really easy to do that. But with that out of the way, Marty, Liz, Lew, I'll turn things over to you now.
Thanks there, Will. And remember what Franklin Delano Roosevelt once said.
During the show, there's a little button at the bottom that says Ask.
That's what he said.
He said that. I think it was right after Pearl Harbor. He said, what did he say? He said, oh, there's nothing to fear except fear itself and polio. So that's what he said. And by the way, Liz, Franklin Delano Roosevelt was the president of the United States from 1933 to 1945. Just so you know, Liz is challenged in that she doesn't know anything prior to 2010.
Yeah, she's 10 years old.
Yeah. She's only 10. She's very advanced, mentally. But yeah, she's only 10. Hi, everyone. My name is Martin Duffy. I'm a former senior master of whiskey for DIAGEO, including 2 beautiful years at the Guinness Brewery in Dublin, which was founded by the Vikings. Hello. So you know.
Dublin. Okay.
Yeah, Dublin and Guinness.
Okay.
Guinness was too. A lot of people don't know that. Leif Erikson founded Guinness. And then what else was there? Oh, there's 18 Glorious Months as a national brand ambassador for Benedictine. 18 months of my life that I wish I could forget. And then 8 glorious years as co-producer of Chicago Independent Spirit Expo. And for the last 7 years, as of this month, I am still the sole brand representative for Glencairn Crystal.
Oh, the invisible one. You didn't tell me about that one.
Yeah. All right. Now we hand over to Liz Rocky Rhodes.
Thanks, Marty. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining. I'm Liz Rhodes, technical distiller and spirit consultant. I have just over a decade of experience in alcoholic beverage, spanning across multiple substrates and spirits and products, including beer, rum, vodka. But my particular favorite and expertise, of course, is in whiskey. I spent most of my career at a small mom and pop company known as DIAGEO. Maybe you've heard of it, maybe not. But I'm now currently founder and principal at Spirit Safe Consulting. And if you'd like to learn a little bit more, little tip, if you scroll down to the About the Host section, there's actually a link to my website. So click it, check it out. Lew?
Thank you, Liz. I am Lew Bryson. I'm a whiskey writer. Have been for, well, as we were discussing before the show started, way too long. I was the managing editor at Whisky Advocate Magazine. For 20 years. And currently a senior drinks writer with the Daily Beast, the award-winning half-full section of the Daily Beast. And I am still plugging the excellent book, Whiskey Masterclass.
Oh, yeah.
Buy it, read it, love it. And Marty has the classic tasting whiskey as well. Thank you, buddy.
Yeah.
We are.
I got a whole bunch of them propping up a door over here.
And today I am drinking because I got it and I'm loving it. I had some on Sunday when we went out sailing with some friends, and I just decided to keep at it. The new Michter's 10-year-old rye that is just out. It is de-freaking-licious, and I'm going to be drinking that the rest of the show. Back to you, Marty. Please
All
introduce our guest.
I will say also, I am imbibing tonight as well. I am in Israel still, so of course I have kosher Buffalo Trace wheat. Marty, over to you.
That's Liz's second bottle today. Well, I should mention, in honor of our guest today, I am drinking batch number 7 of a Kyro Rye. Hello. Special sample given to Boom because of my special connections.
Your bottle is bigger than mine, Marty, because I don't have
enormous.
any. Yeah.
Look at it, actually. Oh my God. Look at it. Compared to my head, it's enormous. My head could fit inside of it.
I'd pay money to see that.
Everyone, this week, I am all prepared because we are going to the far north, up near the Arctic Circle, the land of the midnight sun, I think. Or the really long night.
Take your pick.
Yeah, I guess. It's one or the other. We have 2 gentlemen who have started a distillery in Finland, in the middle of a giant rye field, as far as I can tell from photos. That's as much research as I've done. But we have the head distiller and kind of one of the I'm not sure if both you are co-founders, but Jouni, I believe you're a co-founder. Are you not?
I am.
Yeah, I'm very excited about it. Kalle and Jouni from Kyro, and that's the other thing too. I was surprised. My niece Jamie used to work for the brand here in the States. Told me it was Kyro. I thought, why is it a Kyro? But I forgot. You guys are in Finland and you got your own language. I respect that.
So it's like Illinois, Kyro.
Like Illinois. Oh yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Which is spelled like Cairo though. It is spelled Cairo.
Yeah.
But they call it Kyro. Totally threw me off. I'm going down there calling it Kyro anyway. That's just how I roll. Guys, welcome. How are you?
Welcome.
Thank you. Very good.
Thank you very much.
All right, settle down, both of you. I don't want to send Liz up there. Starting a party. Guys, I mean, this is fascinating. And you know what? I was going to ask too in our little pre-show, but I didn't get around to it. I don't know of too many distilleries in Finland, and we can talk about this. If you guys are the first, or just probably the best known. Hello. But also too, you know, be kind of interesting later on to talk about the distilling traditions in Finland. I would imagine up north, you got to have been making spirits for eons.
You got to hope.
Yeah. I mean, I can't believe it's a new thought to you guys. But anyways, let's start off first with the 2 of you and where you started out, how you got into distilling and thinking, hey, I have a good idea. Why don't we go to the middle of a rye field and build a distillery where zombies can't find us?
Sounds like a great idea. Perfect place.
Yeah, I want to hear this.
Liz wants to go. That's where Liz wants to go. She wants to go in the middle of a rye field, build her own distillery. Jouni, why don't we start with you first? Sure. What were you doing originally? And how did it lead up to where you are today?
Well, where to start?
The beginning.
Well, the beginning, yeah. I started my professional career in China. I moved to China when I was 26. I worked there for about 10 years in transportation and logistics. It was an interesting move after graduation in Finland. But those years were really, really tough and hard in China. The working environment, everything is a little bit different from Europe, and I got burned a bit maybe when I got back. I wanted to do something completely different, and I got to meet the boys who just had finished their sauna session in Finland, So Kyro Distillery started officially in sauna back in 2012 when a couple of friends went to enjoy sauna in southern Finland, and they had some good whiskies along, some good Scottish whiskies, but also there was a bottle of rye from New York at that time. It was Rittenhouse rye, and it stood out at that night. And while the boys were drinking whiskey, they got interested. Why is nobody making whiskey in Finland? Well, we knew that there was, back to your earlier question, there was one distillery in Finland at that time, and but nobody was naturally not distilling rye, which is kind of national grain in Finland. So we're thinking, why is nobody making it? And then that's how it started. But to make it short, I joined the crew a couple of months later after the sauna evening, and the rest is history, as we call it. Here we are after 7 years. Starting our operations, and now we're exporting to 24 countries. We released our first Kyro rye malt whiskey. We're selling along Kyro gins, and we started also in the United States a few years ago. So, but let's go into details during this session. So I don't want to bore you at this stage.
No, this is not boring. It's fascinating.
Yeah, this is what we come for.
I always love hearing how guys got into the business, men and women. When I say guys, just so you know. But the fact of the matter is, so many people come from different lines, completely different lines of work, and then get into distilling. It's I don't know. It seems weird. It seems like they just converge from every different kind of walk of life. Kalle, how about you? You look like you were probably a rock musician, is my guess.
Does kind of look that way, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's more like the new age whiskey distiller look.
Also true.
That's true. Beards are almost not even optional anymore.
Yeah, right.
No, I think in my job description it says you need to have beard or at least very pretty mustache.
Put on your beard.
Yeah. I keep my distilling knowledge in my hair. So
like Samson. She's like Samson. Do not cut off her hair. She'd just be wandering around a distillery not knowing what to do.
Yeah.
So how'd you get started? What was it that you were doing prior, or were you always in the brewing, distilling industry?
If we go back to year 2000, I went to Germany as a student for 1 year, and I learned to drink beer there. And when I came back to Finland, I realized the Finnish beer is shit. And so I started brewing my own. And besides my studies in environmental ecology, I was all the time taking all the knowledge from the biology, microbiology, and use it for making my own beer. And I took also courses in distillation. And by the time I got contacted with these guys from the notorious sauna evening, I was working at the university doing some biofuel research. So we were growing algae and making biodiesel out of it. So I was more than happy to jump out from that field and get to the distilling. So basically that it has been my kind of a dream to work either in a brewery or a distillery for a very long time. But as Jouni mentioned, there was no kind of an culture or tradition of distilling in Finland. So So then I didn't see that as a real option by that time when I started my studies. And then when those guys, actually Mikko, contacted me and asked, because in the sauna evening they got this great idea of making the first Finnish rye whiskey, but then the next morning they realized that it's still a good idea, but no one has a clue how actually to make a whiskey. So knowing that I was home brewing a lot, I was kind of the closest guy for for distilling for them. So they contacted me, and I drank a couple of beers with them and a rye whiskey, and after that I was in. So, and that was back in 2012. And what do you do when you don't know how to make something? That's what university taught me. Go into Google. And that's how my career as a head distiller at Kyro started back in 2012. I used my science background and my background in beer, and then started figuring out how we could make rye whiskey in Finland. And one thing we wanted to do from the very beginning was that if we make rye whiskey, let's make it like we Finns make our rye bread. So use only rye grain. So we use 100% rye in all our distillates. Even in the gin, the base grain alcohol comes from Finnish rye. Sorry?
Malt and unmalted, or all malted?
Unmalted. We don't do the NGS at the distillery. We work with the flavors here. So for the gin we use unmalted rye, but for the whiskey we use couple of exceptions, but mainly only malted rye. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
And this is all your rye. Go ahead, Boo Boo.
Do you malt in-house, or are you working with a partner?
We are working with a partner, and as mentioned earlier, we work with the Vikings.
The Vikings.
So, yes, the Viking malt makes the pot still rye for us, which we use for our distillation.
That would have been so cool if it was the actual Vikings.
It's hard to pin down. Guys getting in boats and sailing off.
Yeah. We come back later. We got to go conquer. We got to go attack the coast of England. Now, do you guys?
I just have to say that's an awesome journey from Finnish beer sucked. I mean, you took that so freaking far from there. I love that.
That's the way it should be, right? It is
the way it should be.
You see, there's a void. There's a void of good beer. Then you go, okay, I'm gonna make good beer. And then it moves into I'm gonna distill that beer.
No whiskey either. Yeah, how can you do a shot in a beer without both?
Well, that's great. I mean, that's a crazy thing when you think about all the Nordic states. I mean, you associate vodka with Sweden because of Absolute.
Yeah.
But you don't really think of too many whiskeys. I know there's whiskeys being made now, but it's funny in northern cold countries that whiskey wasn't like the first thing on someone's mind of making.
I think the problem has been that when you made your moonshine, you didn't store it quite long.
Yeah,
you got right at it.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting too. Well, I guess we'll get to that, but the whole maturation in these colder northern states. But one thing I was curious with your rye, is it all locally sourced? Is it this particular field? Will, can you bring up that photo?
And varietal.
Yeah.
Are you using specific varietals as well?
Will?
Hybrid.
There
Oh,
you go.
man.
Is it this particular field that you're pulling the rye out of? And is this you guys harvesting it?
Phrasing.
Yeah, from that field we only got scarves, but it's
yeah,
so,
those is that grass or that is rye, right?
It is rye.
That's rye.
It is rye, yeah.
That is at a dangerous level to be running through. That's all.
Yeah, I really expected the stalks to be longer, so to speak.
Oh. Yeah,
Yeah,
now careful with phrasing, Mister.
Lew.
Well, it usually gets like 5-6 feet high.
Oh,
those were the old varieties, but
Yeah.
but there is a problem with rain when you have these
Right. It's,
long rye fields. Yeah,
So-
and Liz was already asking about the varieties. We use like couple of varieties. One population rye called Reta, a Finnish variety, and then couple of hybrid breeds
Right.
as well.
Yeah.
so how do you pronounce it? Red?
Reta.
Retta.
Exactly.
That is
Very good.
exclusive to Finland.
I think that one is exclusive to Finland. Yeah, it
I
has.
haven't looked at it before. Yeah.
It has good, but because it's a population rye, it's kind of kept by the farmers from year to year again. Yeah.
Can you send a sample to Liz to analyze? Because she likes doing that.
What's,
Definitely.
yes, I would love. Are there specific attributes of it, or is it just because it's grown locally?
It's the ones we've been chosen are good for the process. Like they don't get that sticky. Rye always gets sticky, but
Yes.
the ones have a really good yield on the extract yields, and they work very good in the malting process. So that's the main factors. But of course, what affects the Finnish grain is the long summers with a lot of the long summer nights. The summer is not long, but it's a mild climate and then a lot of light. And the Finnish grains tend to be a bit smaller than the ones in southern parts grown, which means we get much more flavor in the rye. Do that most of the flavor it's not inside where we have the starch, but it's in the outer layer of the grain.
The cell walls. Yeah. Secondary and primary cell walls. Yeah.
So when you're talking about the mild summers, what about the winters and maturation? Does that? I mean, I'm not sure how much experimentation you guys have done as far as seeing, hey, how our barrels mature like in a drier, warmer climate as opposed to, I mean, I'm assuming you guys have some pretty cold winters up there. Yes,
we do, but we also have insulated and heated warehouses. So.
Oh, really? So the environment really affected.
Yeah, we want to have the maturation going on the whole year round, and because when we wouldn't do this, we would have half of the year below 0 degrees centigrade. So meaning that there wouldn't be any chemical reactions really happening in the casks. We took a shortcut and use insulated warehouses. Yeah. And we are actually using from the new distillery, which is just behind me there. We have a lot of surplus heat, and we can apply that heat for heating the warehouse in the wintertime.
Do you use?
Can I just say how refreshing it is to hear a distiller refer to this as a shortcut rather than coming up with some bullshit thing like, well, we don't really think it ages it faster. We just think it makes it richer and different. I'm like, it's a shortcut. Just say it. Thank you. Thank you.
Honesty is always the best policy.
Yep.
Do you use any of that heat to warm your saunas? You guys have a sauna right there at the distillery, don't you?
We do. We're only heating buildings.
You could not, given the history of the place.
Like a heated pool too? Do you have a heated pool?
Well, we'll be planning that, but in a couple of years' time, there will be kind of a floating pools in the river. So that's my promise to you. A couple of years from now on.
I love this idea.
Yeah.
Glencairn's going to have to send me there in a fact-finding mission.
Glencairn Infinity Pool?
Yeah, that'd be great. Ooh, make the pool in the shape of Glencairn glass.
Glencairn.
Don't expect Glencairn to pitch in though for that. So just
yeah, right. So we've heard.
Before going deeper into those floating pools, I'd like to shortly go back to rye and how important it's for us Finns.
Sorry.
So we have a long tradition as a nation with rye. It's kind of part of our DNA. We as much as it was already chosen as, or rye bread was chosen as Finnish national dish recent years. It probably tells how boring we Finns are, but that was really chosen as our national dish, and we grow rye because it grows in a harsh soil with short summers, but as Kalle mentioned, with long nights, and that's how it's traditionally used in Finland, and we wanted to use it because it's very, very familiar for us Finns.
So Jouni, you're basically in charge. I don't know if you're in charge, but I mean, you deal a lot with marketing. You came over and lived over in the U.S. in Chicago with your family for what, about a year?
About a year, yeah, just before COVID.
How difficult is it to try to introduce, another country to a whiskey from a country that's not known for making whiskey?
Yeah, it's not just a brand; it's a whole identity you have to sell.
Yeah.
But
if there isn't a lot of other folks making whiskey, now they're not going to be familiar with them. You're kind of starting from ground zero.
Are there a lot of Finns in America? A lot of Finnish Americans? I have no idea.
There are. There's there's a big Irish population, like Martin knows very well. There's also smaller Finnish population, but during the between First and Second World War, people immigrated, especially to those areas in Minnesota and Illinois. There are even towns named after Finnish names in those areas.
I'm sorry, what's a real well-known Finnish name?
Cannot recall right now, but there are many of those, and the weather for example, in Minnesota is very, very similar to Finland.
See, that's what I can never understand. I don't understand why the Finns didn't emigrate to America and go, screw it, I'm moving to Alabama.
Florida. I want some more snow. I'm leaving snow back there for more snow.
But to answer your question, it was tough to start up in US, and that time we didn't have any rye. We only had the gins to start the business. It was interesting. I ran through all the bars in Chicago. I still remember when Marty, you sent me the list of the bars, list of the on-trade accounts, and I ran through all of them together with your niece, and we got some results during the first year, but it was tough. Definitely, it wasn't easy to introduce a Finnish summer in a bottle, as we call our Kyro gin, or the gin for when the weather sucks, our Kyro dark gin.
And for your gin, do you use a lot of native Finnish botanicals?
We do.
Yeah,
we do. We have 4 distinctive Finnish fresh botanicals that we use for Kyro gin: cranberry, sea buckthorn, meadowsweet, and was it rosemary, Kalle, for the US edition, because we needed to replace it with we had birch leaf in our original recipe.
We also needed to replace the meadowsweet, but we do have then additional that heather, which grows a lot of here, and then Angelica, not only the root, but the Angelica leaves in the US version. Yeah.
So you say you had to replace them? Were they not allowed in the US, or really?
They were not FDA approved botanicals, because birch leaves are really poisonous, as you know. as well as the meadows which was used to extract aspirin from, and I made a calculation that to get the same amount than one pill aspirin, you would have to drink 100 liters of gin.
Wow!
Like the way he phrases it, you would have to.
You'd have to.
Yeah.
Gin. So, all right then.
Good. That kind of
I have a
cures your
headache.
hangover from the 100 liters of gin. It's like
Exactly.
I'm getting the aspirin right afterwards. I'm set.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good thinking.
But Marty, you have the dark gin there. Did you
I
taste
do.
it already?
No, I have not. I'm still drinking the rye.
Oh,
But
it's
you know
good.
what? I'll catch
So
up.
how
with
does the I guess Jouni, this is more a question for you. The sales, I haven't seen barrel aged gin moving that much in the U.S. Is it more popular there? I mean,
For
does
us-
it do okay?
Yeah, for us it was the most important product when we started because you guys, you have a long tradition with maturation. Obviously, people are very, very familiar with brown spirits.
Yeah.
All in all, and that's why all the bartenders in Chicago, they loved it because they could easily use it for any cocktail base, gin, but even traditional whiskey cocktail bases. So that's why they really liked it, and we were selling much more of the dark gin than Kyro gin.
It has a wonderful nose.
Yeah, it's fantastic product. It's very, very short. It has a short maturation of only about 9 to 10 weeks.
Liz belongs in an Israeli street gang out there, and she's flashing signs.
Wi-Fi is variable.
Well, that's
This
what happens when you transmit from a wine cellar, right?
This has such a perfumey nose. It's really unique. I would not even guess this is a gin. I mean, it has a lot of different, spices.
I've had some barrel aged Geneva that really drinks more like a whiskey.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
that's the other thing too. I know Paul Helko has his barrel aged gin. A few other folks, small distilleries.
Our guys here in Philly, Blue Coat to a barrel aged.
Yeah.
They sell pretty well in Chicago, so I could see where folks would grab onto this, especially if it's unique. That's the double-edged sword of coming from a small country not known for producing spirits like gin or whiskey, in that there might be those who go, what? Whiskey coming from Finland. However, there's a bunch of folks who go, whiskey from Finland? Completely different. They're intrigued. And same thing with the gin. But that's why I asked too about the botanicals. Kalle, the gin you were saying before, the ingredients you had to take out for the American one. Do you still make the original one, and is it available in Finland?
The original one is available everywhere else than in
except for the States,
US and Canada. Yeah.
But we're scared of it.
Yeah. No, you don't want bark.
Sure. There's pine as well, or
Birch leaves.
Birch
were,
leaves
were one of the issues.
Yeah. Which is weird. Birch
So-
leaves.
I missed. Obviously, I missed the last
a lot.
10 minutes.
Basically everything.
That'll be reflected in your paycheck. You're only getting paid half for this episode.
Yeah, I need to go back and actually watch the episode to understand. But Marty, you bring up a good point in terms of Finnish whiskey, right? Like, is there a consumer definition? Do you define it as something? What does that look like?
So there is no legal definition of Finnish whiskey. So we go along the EU regulations on whiskey, but because there was no tradition of making rye whiskey in Finland, it was a challenge, but it also gave us a lot of freedom to kind of combine different ways of making whiskey, and that's why our way of using malted rye distilling the Scottish way, but then aging partly in New American oak and partly in ex bourbon gives us a character into the whiskey, which sets us apart from most of the rye whiskey you've tasted. And so we embraced the kind of the challenge and just wanted to craft the best possible rye whiskey, bringing out as much rye notes as possible to the people.
Well, that's something that struck me. I mean, most of the EU rules kind of follow, for whiskey, follow Scotch, if I'm not mistaken, right? It's the whole 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's 3 years, aged in wooden barrels, no bigger than 700 liters.
Which, why would you? I mean, why would you?
Why would you?
Oh, they're doing some tequila in really big containers in Mexico. I don't know why. I guess just color and not so much flavor. I mean, there's hardly any wood content.
Just fooders. Yeah, fooders at that point.
They are. I mean, they're like 5,000 liters. They're huge.
Yeah.
Well, that's what they used to ship donkeys in, Lou, and so they had to come up with another purpose.
Actually, I think they're just like treadmills, donkey treadmills, and they put sides on them. I think that's all it is. Yeah.
But if it's following the rules for Scotch whiskey, I mean, I would just think all these other countries, they would just kind of feel like, hey, man, we were kind of doing our own thing, including a lot of American whiskey that's shipped over to the over to the EU. Can't be called whiskey if it's
because it's not 3 years old.
Yeah.
If
it's a straight bourbon, which is only 2 years, well, it's not considered a whiskey. And I've heard, I don't know if this is still true, but for the longest time they were calling any American whiskey bourbon. Bourbon was just being slapped. They didn't recognize bourbon as bourbon.
Oklahoma is like that. Oklahoma or Texas used to be like that with beer. Anything that was over 5% was called an ale. Just
Really?
Yeah, I'm like, what? Just stupid laws.
Yeah, but I don't see that restrictive. What we have, of course, if you would like to mail, the only thing which was newly restricted from us was that we are not allowed. It used to be so that you can call us from any grain a single malt as long as it's molded grain. And nowadays it's restricted to barley. So
is it really?
We were going to release. I think the first releases we made was called the Kyro single malt rye whiskey because it's made by one distillery using only molded rye grain. So, but
we can still do that here
anymore.
Yeah. Finland rules.
Well, the Finland rules
are EU rules. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
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 With the single malt.
Yeah. Then the Scotch, they lobbied it through that single malt can be only used for Scottish single malt. So nowadays it's not allowed anymore for us to use single malt rye whiskey.
Yeah, it's only for the single malt region of France.
You can't use the term single malt.
No.
Well, all right. There's a fine kick in the butt, huh? What? So what do you? I mean, you want to? Why don't you guys come up with your own term? So think of something completely different. Say, hey, this is.
Yeah, it's the Kyro malt rye whiskey.
Yeah.
Malt rye whiskey. There you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
That handles it. Actually,
I know. Pure malt rye whiskey. That'll go over well, won't it? Sure, it's not being used, right?
Yeah, I think that term's that's free now.
Did we do a walkthrough, or did you walk us through? Yeah,
we did while you were away, Liz.
Did I miss it?
We didn't.
We went through the history and all the production.
What?
No, we didn't.
I want to know. Can you walk us
let's hear about how we mash and malt and ferment and distill and all that jazz.
Kalle, that's you.
Is it me?
Yes.
It's me.
Can you guide us through the process?
Yeah.
Making the whiskey. First off, how many guys do you have at the distillery? who are involved in production?
I don't know. We are around 20.
Distillery, everyone.
We are around 20 people working at the distillery.
Okay.
At the moment, in the whiskey distilling team or the whiskey team, we have 4 people. Two in the like running the daily distillations, and then 1 in barrel warehouse. And Mari is running things, everything around it, and I'm just like doing like this with my hands and bringing in the crazy ideas, which they then swear they have to do. But yeah, so we take the Finnish rye. It's been molded by the Viking malt, a maltster in Finland, and they developed for us kind of a special variety at pot still rye, which has the enzyme activity we need for the conversion of the starch into sugars. And it's a fairly simple process. We use a hammer mill to grind it to a coarse meal, and then mash it in one-step infusion. So, and after that, all grains in will go to the fermenter. We have temperature-controlled fermenting and a long fermentation of 6 days. So we have not only the alcoholic fermentation by the specific yeast strains we selected, but also the malolactic or the lactic acid bacteria working there, habits there at the end of the fermentation, bringing in acidity into the mash.
Is open top fermentation?
Well, we have closed tanks. Yeah, we don't want to have all the CO2 coming into the building.
Yeah.
And if there wouldn't be the distillation going on I could run you through the actual process, but it's so noisy. And then after the 6 days of fermentation, we have 10.5 ABV in the rye mash, and it goes straight into the first pot still. So we have a double pot still distillation
When you say
in the
go straight in,
process.
is that grains and all?
Sorry, grains in,
Grains?
yeah.
Wow,
All grains
okay.
in, yeah. Yeah, so we get the maximal taste and the maximal mess from the rye, and so we distill it into the low wines, and then obviously the second distillation with the heads and tails of the previous distillation is run through.
And you distill it to what strength, Kalle?
It's at 70 ABV after the distillation, so 140 proof.
And your indirect fire?
It's steam, indirect fire. So we have steam pans in the low wash still, and then kind of a radiator in the second still. It's all copper, obviously, and also copper condenser, and so a lot of copper contact for the distillate. Yeah,
Liz,
and then
I'm sorry. I just want to ask here because I'm not. Is there anybody else that's doing on grain rye pot still?
Zuidam, the Millstone rye in the Dutch one. Yeah. They do all grains in. Yeah.
Huh. I think most of the people in the U.S. are just doing wort transfer. I don't know if anybody in the U.S. are they doing
especially with
pot
rye,
still on grain.
Because
pot still grain is a pain in the neck.
Yeah, there's so much mess afterwards.
Yeah.
You have to. I always hear that.
Yeah, I mean, no, I don't need to tell you that. You obviously.
Well, we've designed the still. So with the first still, we learned a lot, and in the second setup, we already knew what we need to do differently, and this third setup we are running at the moment is then specifically made for distilling rye. So. Awesome. It's not that messy anymore, but there are still a couple of things to be done in that. So yeah.
And these are still hybrid, right? Hybrid rye. Are you fluctuating between? You mentioned.
Oh, the rye strains.
Because you mentioned you're working with a few.
Yeah. It's we don't separate them. They don't have that much difference in the in the taste profile. If we think of which brings us most of the taste profile, is obviously the way we ferment it, the way we distill is then what we capture, and then obviously the maturation. And but between the rye varieties we've been using, there ain't that much big difference inside Finland.
Okay.
But we haven't been using any heirloom grains yet. But
okay.
But because we are using we are using 800 tons of rye in a year. So so if someone is having a couple of bushels of rye, it didn't really bring us much further.
Sure.
So when it's time to fill the casks, what strength do you guys barrel?
It always depends from the cask. So depending of the history of the cask, it's various strengths. We start from 54.5 ABV for the new American oak casks, which come from Kelvin Cooperage, and then for the ex bourbons we go to the 63 ABV.
Do you ever vat the whiskeys?
Yeah, we obviously at the end of the aging, we do a vatting to give it a more wider profile and to keep the consistency. Like the Kyro mold is a mixture of 3 type of casks. So we use the new American oak, ex bourbon, and then a tiny bit of first fill Sherry Oloroso casks in this one.
Wow.
So that one also gives its broadness to the whiskey, and yeah, quite nice touch to the rye and makes it more complex, as well as using the malting process gives us more complexity than we normally expect from a rye as a grain.
That's sweet. Yeah, Jouni, how far afield is all of this? Are you marketed? Are you in China? Since you had old Chinese connections there? Jouni, you're on mute.
Sorry, I was in mute. So we are in China,
Oh,
we are in
God.
Japan, we are in Singapore,
Wow.
Wow.
Hong Kong. Those are the
whiskey-hungry
Asian
countries.
markets. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about South America? What about Panama? We
are not
in Panama.
We are not there yet.
A little check in for Brad there. Hey, Brad.
We are only in 5 states in the US, and we're just about starting Canada. So very early, small steps in the US.
You know what? Make sure you're in British Columbia. Go to Victoria's Whiskey Festival in January.
Oh yeah.
That's already scheduled. It's a fun event and a lot of great whiskey.
And pretty much a trade show too.
Yeah, and whiskey,
a lot of people there
from all
buying
over the
whiskey.
world. It's that would be a great place because I imagine that's kind of like Finland light.
I gotta tell you, Victoria in January is pretty damn nice.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah,
it really is.
I did have a.
Celsius?
Sorry, go ahead, Liz. I'm sorry.
I said where Fahrenheit means Celsius.
Yeah, right.
I think that's their motto. I think that's the motto of the town.
Might be on the
Lew, please go ahead.
I had kind of a divergent thing. Again, like I said, I was looking at your website and I saw that you have a long drink. Can you talk about that? Because there's a group of Finnish expats selling long drink in the U.S. and I've kind of, I don't want to say I'm addicted to it because you don't like to use that word when we're drinking, but I'm drinking a lot of it. I really like it.
So you are
So what
addicted.
the hell is it?
Jouni,
Nice.
feel free.
Yeah. Yes. So ready to drink, what we call long drink in Finland, has a long tradition. It was created for the Helsinki Summer Olympics for
So that's a real story. I thought it was a
1952.
bullshit story, but that's a real story.
No,
Okay, cool.
that's a real story.
Okay.
And that's what we call in Finland. We call it grey because it's in color. It's grey because it's a grapefruit juice and gin, and then carb and that's when it was created. And a Finnish company called Hartwall made it very big in Finland afterwards. And these young fellows, whom we also know very well, they started it up in the US, and that's
nice.
what they're selling there. And we wanted to not to create exactly the same grapefruit juice and gin. We wanted to create our own category or our own selection of long drink. So we created what we call Kyro cranberry juice, our Kyro gin, and a hint of rosemary. Then we also have a Kyro ginger, which is fresh ginger soda, and some mint and lime juice. And then blueberry, very Finnish variant, blueberry and heather. So we are selling them only in Finland because
get them over here now.
Yeah.
Sorry.
What ABV?
We are about 5.
5.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay.
Nice.
Yeah, ready your drinks, man. They're on fire right now.
Yeah. It's just very difficult category because you would need to produce them in the US soil to make it feasible. Yeah. Our friends who started up in the US, they are producing it, I guess, in Virginia or Louisiana or somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering about the name, Kyro. You got the 2 little dots. What are the 2 little dots over the O called?
Umlaut.
Umlaut.
Well, that's what it's called in German. I don't know what it's called in Finnish. Sorry.
It's called So you call it Kyro Distillery.
Kyro. What does that mean? Does that translate in English into something like distillery of the fiery Vikings or something?
It's a river, right?
Oh, is it?
It is a river. And it's the place the place where the distillery is located at is Iso Kyro, which means the big Kyro.
Ooh,
and
the big Kyro.
So
the big Kyro.
Yeah, so we shortened it up to only Kyro to not to bring in some confusion.
That's probably good.
Yeah.
But what is a Kyro? I mean, all right, a river's named after it, but what is it? Is it
the etymology is not completely clear, but some claim that it comes from church. Kyro, kyrka in English, Swedish is a church, and it might come from that, but it's not confirmed.
Yeah, what does Chicago mean, Marty?
Wild onions.
Wild onions
or stinky onions.
Is that where Booker T wrote the song, The Green Onions? Is that?
Yeah, probably.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, I love the thing. I mean, almost everything, especially over in Europe. So many names.
Oh, yeah, when you dig down, there's a meaning.
There's a meaning.
Yeah.
And then over here, if it sounds like an Indian name, throughout Illinois, most of the names have a Indian, Native American meaning.
Yeah, what I have found that almost every name in Philadelphia means where we drink. That seems to be, and of course the famous. I'm like, that's what this other town. All right, whatever.
Ben Franklin, he went around naming everything.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what we drink. I'll call that.
That's what it means. Trust me.
Yeah.
I spoke to a Native American once.
What's matter, Liz?
I said, so we had
trying to drag us back on topic. Thank you.
Yeah, several people calling in today, so thank you. Brad, of course. Hey, Brad. Let's see. Denise Jones says hello from Nornev and also says, hi, Brad.
Brad's getting a lot of attention.
Neil says greeting from Sumi. Brad also says, I'm jealous, Lew. So Michter's, of course, is
Yeah, I've
amazing.
kind of been just like waving that in front of the camera for Brad. It's really good, buddy.
Yeah. Kalung says hello from Chicago. And Niels also says our sauna is almost ready. So there's apparently a sauna crew.
Yeah.
He's the
And why
COO
not?
at E&A Shear in Amsterdam. Massive rum blending operation.
And Lee says we do on-grain malt rye on their hybrid.
Yeah, I saw that. Huh? How about that?
Hey, Lee.
So, guys, as I mentioned, my niece represented your brand over here, young Jamie Duffy, when she was with Thoroughbred. Still kind of is with Thoroughbred, but now representing strictly St. George. But she had a great story about when you brought together 10 different, for lack of a better term, brand ambassadors, people who were representing your brands across the globe. And so there's people, I believe there's someone from China, someone from Spain. It was almost like the Tower of Babylon. You had all these people from different parts of the country or of the world who, I don't know if they all spoke English, let alone Finnish.
They all speak whiskey.
But you brought 10 of them together, and they're all going to stay in a barracks. And when Jamie arrived, they were a little surprised to find out that Jamie was a girl.
No.
The other 9 were all men. And so they had to quickly fashion cordon off a curtain or something around her bed to give her a little privacy. But you guys also have a tradition of midnight meetings in the sauna. And it ain't with a little towel around your waist.
Ooh, Buffy.
You're butt naked. So again, Jamie, and the going back to the fact that your distillery is a little bit, remote. It's you don't have a Kmart anywhere nearby to go and get a swimsuit. You guys really had to hustle to find Jamie a swimsuit. And I guess all the other guys had to wear, I guess they had to keep their towel on or something.
Fig leaves.
But as the week progressed, there is I guess clothing became optional. You had a lot of different stuff where you went swimming, and she said, next thing you know, there's little butts all over the place, jumping in the water. And I think she's very demure. So I think
I'm not sure what she told her uncle.
Well, there's a whole article. She sent me an article in Finland. It was a big deal because there was a female brand ambassador from the States at the Kyro Distillery. The only problem is she doesn't even know what it says. There's a big picture of her with some of the staff, but it's all in Finnish. So they could be saying, this trollop disrupted sauna meeting.
I guess it was my mistake that I didn't tell them in advance that Jamie is a she. When I sent her out.
First time that's happened.
Jouni, you have naked sauna meetings that didn't even pass your mind. What if Liz went out there to help you distill, and then next thing you know, she's, oh my God, and a bunch of naked Finnish guys
with
around.
the hair. She wouldn't have anything to worry about.
Malt the grain with us. Come on, Liz.
At this point, the hair is a dress. Am I right, Liz?
Well, that's what the hair does. Just like Lady Godiva. In
Yeah.
those kind of cases, the hair just drapes. But that's fun. I mean, you go on your website, and actually I Googled your distillery and then looked under images. There's a lot of nakedness. And I don't know, is that just your distillery or is it Finland? Finland just loves,
It's Finnish style, yeah. When you go to sauna, you go butt naked because you used to. That was your weekly cleaning up your body, so you need to be naked too.
Did you jump in a cold pool afterwards? Did you do the whole polar bear thing?
Yeah, we have the shrimps coming out from the pool. Yeah.
The what did you? The shrimp? Is
The
that
tiny
euphemism?
shrimps, yeah.
You familiar with the term shrinkage?
I know shrinkage. I just never heard it called shrimps.
No, I like it.
No, it's great. Yeah. I
Yeah.
don't know. That's
But yeah, sauna is in a very deep in the Finnish mindset, and
That's what I mean. You guys starting your distillery in a sauna. That's too cool. That's almost like an American company's. Well, yeah, we started our distillery in a pickup truck. You know,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like it's like this is too good to be true.
well, but that makes sense though. They're going to be a bunch of people
Sure.
sitting around
That's
a
where you start
sauna,
talking about that stuff.
chatting, and you go, "Oh my god, it's so hot and steamy in here. That reminds me of a distillery." And then you go, "Oh, let's make a distillery." Yeah.
I just posted a nice brand video which is called Naked Man. It kind of describes really well how we established the business, and it's only about 2 minutes. So after this show, please go and check it out. I
Okay,
just
as long
posted
as
it on the private chat.
As long as it's just not about a naked man.
I am
all right.
posting it on the Zavi board now.
There we go.
Liz, can you? You're in Israel. Can you look at a video of a naked man?
Yeah, I saw.
I don't know. Oh, you saw? You saw already. All right. I'm just wondering if there's special rules over there. Finland, Israel.
I had my mom at a doctor's appointment on Friday, and the Wi-Fi wouldn't let me look at my own booze website because it was alcohol related.
Yeah.
Wow.
Kidding?
Well, there's a lot of that going around.
There's a lot of that going around, man.
Yeah, not good. Freedom.
So, can I move away from
anything? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what's new on the horizon? Anything exciting?
Innovative. What's new, not what's nude.
What? So basically, we established this Kyro rye malt last autumn, and obviously we've been distilling since 2014, and there is a lot of aging in the warehouse, and because we do exclusively only rye, so we wanted to do a couple of different varieties as well with using 100% rye. So what would be the factor to make it different? So we have a wood smoked, which use older wood to smoke the rye grain or the rye malt, and then we have one older. Yes, okay. Yeah. And then another one where we've been using peat, like a Finnish freshwater peat to smoke the rye malt. So those two like main lines are coming up in the future, and obviously the whiskey. Also, the amounts of whiskey are getting larger every year. So there will be more this Finnish liquid rye bread available on the markets in the near future.
And how many years aging are we talking about?
This one, because we have different types of cask, it's the casks are between 3 and 4.5 years in the vat. Yeah.
Over in Scotland, some distilleries are experimenting with peat from different parts of Scotland, right, for their malts. Have you guys compared the Finnish peat that you're using to peat from either other countries or other parts of? Because you guys, I don't know how much the climate changes from the very south.
Well, the
north, but.
Yeah, there would be some difference, but the peatlands are mainly in Finland from kind of a same kind of vegetation, which is completely different to the Scottish peat. We made a experiment in the beginning with the Finnish compared to the Scottish, and we really like the Finnish peat, which is more kind of a piney, resiny smoke coming from that. Not that much kind of these minerals than you get from the like the Scottish peat. So So it's a fairly different. Obviously, it's a recognizable peat, but it's a lightly fresher in the character.
How far are you guys from the main? What's the big capital of Finland? Is it not Helsinki?
Mm-hmm.
Is it
Yes.
Helsinki?
Yeah.
Look at Marty.
Good, Marty.
How far are you guys from Helsinki?
Jouni, you can convert it into miles even.
I think we're about 250 miles now. It's a five-hour drive from Helsinki.
Wow.
So it's northwest from Helsinki.
And is there a small town or something nearby? I'm just imagining in the winter, it's kind of like in the movie The Thing. You guys are, stranded there at the distillery, and someone's
I can't believe you went there. Wow.
Well, it's just that's my image of the Nordic country far north, even in Canada. I think of that. Anyone who lives in Gimli.
But isn't most of the distilleries in the middle of nowhere, even in US, if you don't talk about the smallest ones?
Well,
a fair number of them.
Yeah, they're about 45 minutes away. You're never more than, unless you're way out west, and even then, I don't know if anyone's, because you got to be close to a main road. Unless you want to incur some huge shipping costs, you got to be close to some kind of main. When you guys are making whiskey in the fall, in the winter, and say you're bottling, if it's you get a big snow, aren't you kind of a little SOL? No,
we are not snowed in.
No. You're breaking my whole image of Finland. It was based on old Richard Harris war movie.
It's a rural location, but we are very, very, very familiar working with snow, so we don't get any troubles. No polar bears running on the streets of Isokura.
Moose? What about moose?
Some moose,
sometimes.
Reindeer. You are up in Santa Claus country.
Yeah, those are in the up north, in Lapland. Yeah.
See, Marty knows from watching movies and cartoons.
A little bit. Yeah. Rocky and Bullwinkle. Yes. Yeah, I know.
All right. I think we've gotten into that territory.
Amazing.
We're running out, but this was great. Thank you.
Yes, it's super cool to have you guys. Thank you for joining us. Also, the green rectangle, click it. It's a link to the website, so check it out. I'm going to queue up next week, if that's okay. So next week, we have a special episode next week, right? So we have Kalle, former Bushmills.
With Daryl? Yeah, maybe. Yeah. We haven't. Daryl has been a little tough to get a hold of, little incommunicado. Man is traveling around. Yes, we still need his info.
Presumably, we'll have Daryl, but if not, it's
presumably. If not, you'll see the three of us just kind of talking about cartoons.
No, we'll be talking about whiskey.
Yeah,
we'll be talking about whiskey
and cartoons.
Yes. Oh my god.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure. Cheers, everyone.
Appreciate you being up at this. Well, you weren't. It's not that late, but you're at the job late. Thank you.
Yeah,
hey, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Or 9 o'clock where you are.
9 o'clock.
It's whiskey time.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Marty.
Lew, Chicago. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hope to see you soon.